Good morning, students. Today we are going to continue with our previous chapter, which we are learning about the Turkish invasion. That is chapter number 4 in history. And there we went through few of the important people who had invaded India, like Muhammad of Ghazni and Muhammad Ghori. In that we came to understand as to what were the perspective of these two different Turkish kings who had come to Indian territory and invaded India. One who had Muhammad of Ghazni, who actually came just to plunder the wealth that was there in India, in which he carried away lot of wealth several times whenever he came and invaded India. On the other hand, we studied about Muhammad Ghori, who who had a different vision of coming to India, that is to establish his own kingdom and rule there for a certain period of time. And on that process, he conquered various different kings, in which we studied about the first battle of Tehran, then the second battle of Tehran. And thus he was able to occupy capital of India, that is Delhi, the throne of Delhi, and then he started his rule. Now, it was a time when he decided to go back to his kingdom. But before going, he left one of his slaves and to take care of the administration of his Indian territories or Indian kingdom. Now, why it is considered that he left his slaves? Because as I told you earlier, Muhammad Ghori used to keep slaves with him as his own soldiers, as his main position soldiers. He did not never used to treat soldiers in otherwise which the other people used to treat them. He had a different perspective. He used to buy slaves, but he used to keep them and give them an important place in his armed forces, and brought about a lot of battles into a positive stand for himself. Why it was? Because it was considered that slaves were very strong during that time, and certain breed of slaves that were bought were quite energetic and strong enough, built up enough. So he took that as an advantage for him and included all those slaves in his armed forces. And this is how, when he left one of his important slaves there, whose name was Kutubuddin Aibak. Now, that was the period when a new form of dynasty, the rule of a particular form of dynasty started, which was known as the Mamluk dynasty. Now, this particular dynasty was also known as slave dynasty. Mamluk and slave dynasty has the same meaning. Why it was called a slave dynasty, as I explained to you now, that they actually belonged from a slave generation, where they were bought from someone else. So they considered themselves and gave about a new rise of dynasty, which was known as the Mamluk dynasty. And the first ruler of the Mamluk dynasty was Kutubuddin Aibak. Now, Kutubuddin Aibak played a very important role in historical development of India, and some of the important features that for which he is still remembered till now. Now, let us know about him in regarding to how Kutubuddin Aibak was. Now, he was considered to be a very generous kind of ruler. He was always treated well, not along with the people who belong to his own religion or who practice his own religion, but to the other religious people also. He was considered to be, or he was considered or given a name as Lakh Baksh. What is that I have mentioned here? Lakh Baksh, which means a generous giver. I mean, he used to give donations, or he used to pay many poor people or needful required people lakhs of monies for their own development, and that is why he was considered or known as Lakh Baksh. Now, on the other hand, it was regarded that there are various important architectural structure also that was built by Kutubuddin Aibak. And during his time, it was said that we have all known that India has Qutub Minar as one of the highest minars in India, or the tallest minars in India. Now, this Qutub Minar was actually started by Qutbuddin Aibak. That is why after his name only the minar is known as Qutub Minar. Now, it was first started by Qutbuddin Aibak. Then later on it was on further way it was constructed, or it was more properly developed by his son-in-law Iltutmish. And this is how this Qutub Minar got erected. And why was this Qutub Minar most probably made? The reason was that Qutub Minar was used as a prayer tower, where the important person who used to call the people who was known as muezzin, the person who used to call the people for prayers and all, was known as muezzin. And this muezzin used to climb up to the tower of the Qutub Minar and used to call people for the prayer, or means he started the prayer and informed people that the time has arrived, or that at a particular time when the prayer should be given to their God. And this is how it is considered that this particular tower played a very important role, and it has its own significant development, or it has its own significant structure. And this is how Qutbuddin Aibak is still remembered in our present historical time. The next is about Iltutmish, the second ruler of the Mamluk dynasty. Now, his coming into the power is also very interesting, because Qutbuddin Aibak had his own legal heir, but still it was his son-in-law who took control over the kingdom under the guidance of, or under the order of, Qutbuddin Aibak. Later, when Qutbuddin Aibak, due to an accident where it was said that he fell from the horse and he lost his life, after that Iltutmish was given the throne, or he considered or brought about such a powerful status in the kingdom that he was recognized as the next king of the Mamluk dynasty. Now, there are various important things that he did which made or brought about his significance or importance in the kingdom as a king, and he was able to stabilize or get recognition from the other people. Why it was required so? Because he was actually son-in-law, and according to the procedures of kingdoms, it was regarded that the king's next legal heir or the natural heir becomes the next ruler. But due to some incapabilities that was there in the heirs of Qutbuddin Aibak, Iltutmish was given this particular seat. And on the other hand, Iltutmish also made sure that his status is always maintained and consolidated it stabilized it in a very proper manner. Now, what all things he did to see that his kingship is properly consolidated or maintained? Let us go through one by one. Number one, the activities or the things that he did was, the Turkish nobles who was there in the kingdoms, he made sure that they never claimed or brought about any pointing discrimination about his leadership or kingship during his time. He maintained or so that he is able to suppress them properly, so that they don't rise against him and start raising their voices. So he maintained a very strict and rigid system of form with his nobles. Then the revolt that Khilji started against his government, he was able to crush them, and the attacks from the Bengal kingdom was also been crushed by Iltutmish in a very proper way. The third one, whatever powers that extended against him from the rulers outside India, that is from the rulers of Ghazni or Multan, he was able to destroy these attacks that always, or suppressions that always came in the middle when he was a ruler. And the most important thing that he did was to consolidate or to restrict Genghis Khan. Now Genghis Khan was during his time was considered one of the very brutal or one of the very strongest kings during that time, and restraining him or prohibiting him from getting his throne was a very big challenge for Iltutmish, which he almost equally was capable of doing it, and he did so. Now, there were various invasions that were done by the Mongols in different periods or different times, and Iltutmish was very strong enough in his own leadership to control them. The fifth one is in regarding to the internal territorial enemies who were stronger, like the Rajputs, who were also considered to be very strong kingdoms that were there present during that time. He was able to bring about a good kind of restriction to his enemies who belonged from the Rajput kingdoms, and it was said that he brought the whole of the northern part of India, including the Narmada river, under the control of himself, and he later on designated himself as the Khalifa of Baghdad. That means the highest position that he could give to himself, and considered him to be the sovereign ruler of India. Now Iltutmish reorganized the finance and revenue system in such a way that the administrative system of his governance or his kingdom runs smoothly. He brought about few of the changes in the administrative system, the financial system, where certain important implementation was done, that is the Iqtidar system, where the lands were divided into Iqtas, and these Iqtas were given to different Iqtidars who were controlling them and who were looking into them in a particular manner as he had prescribed or as he had laid down in his own times. And that is why he was able to bring about a proper revenue system in his own kingdoms, which was again a very important aspect, because to run a country or to run a government or to run a kingdom, it is always to see that the income or the earnings that are being coming from the other sources for the kingdoms is very important. How it comes without the disturbance of the general public who are there, who are giving, without burdening them, is a very big challenge, or it always becomes a very big challenge, which was well maintained and properly done by Iltutmish. Now, this is how he was able to bring about various different important significant changes during his time, which made Iltutmish one of the prominent and very successful leaders or kings in the Mamluk dynasty. Later, as I told you, that what his father-in-law Qutbuddin Aibak had left, the construction of Qutub Minar, he completed certain very important parts and developed it in a better way. He was a very good believer or liker of painting, arts. So during his time, he encouraged many of these kind of activities that were there, the people who were interested in this. And Iltutmish is regarded, now all these activities, whatever he did, whatever he took part in, now this regarded him as one of the very important kingdoms, or the founder or the main founder or the builder of the Delhi Sultanate during that time, where he gave a platform or started a generation where the Delhi Sultanate could be ruled for a longer period of time. And after that, so many various different changes came, which defined during his time India and made India to be one of the very compatible kind of kingdom during their reign and during his time, especially during the time of Iltutmish. Then came the leadership of Razia Sultan, who was one of the first women of the Mughal period, or you can say one of the first women in the Delhi Sultanate who ruled for a certain period of time. Her duration was not long, because after Iltutmish, it was regarded that no other son of Iltutmish was so much prominent or strong enough to bring about that kind of leadership. So Razia Sultan was appointed as the leader or the ruler of the Mamluk dynasty, the upcoming Mamluk dynasty after Iltutmish. But it was seen that most of the other nobles did not agree to it. Why? Because they considered that bowing their heads towards a woman leader or a woman ruler was not acceptable for them, and they started retaliating about the putting Raja Sultan as the next ruler. This is all for today. We are going to continue with our next class, in which in details some of the other parts we will learn and study about how and in what way Raja Sultan took over, and after that Ghiyasuddin Balban, who was considered to be the last actual ruler of the Mamluk dynasty, what significance or what was his pattern or system of leading the Mamluk dynasty in the later stages or the final stages of the Mamluk dynasty. So this is all for today. Thank you very much.